Hello everyone, I am Julian Morris with the Channel 5 News. In the headlines, Dominica welcomes back Carnival Cruise Lines after an 8-year absence. 2 suspects in last Wednesday's shooting in Newtown surrendered to police, and CARICOM heads say there's a place for engagement of opposition parties in the CSME process. The details of the news coming up.
Rudolf Thomas Enterprise in Portsmouth, your suppliers of building materials and hardware products. Over 20 years experience in the business. Rudolf Thomas has lumber and plywood, galvanized and fenced pipe. Check out Rudolf Thomas for ceramic and vinyl floor and wall tiles, nails, nuts and bolts, paint and painting supplies. And check out their line of electrical and hand tools. Go now to Rudolf Thomas on 1240 Bay Street in Portsmouth.
First stop in the news, after an 8-year absence, Carnival Cruise Lines has returned to Dominica shores. Andrea Louis has that report.
The 8-year hiatus was broken with the visit of MV Carnival Fascination on Tuesday, which has a passenger capacity of over 2,000. A significant sum of money went into renovating the Roseau cruise ship berth and improving the Demi Junior Charles Boulevard for the event. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, Karen Prevost, says the arrival of Carnival Fascination is an important moment for Dominica's tourism sector.
This is very significant for us, particularly post-Hurricane Maria, 10 months after Hurricane Maria, and we all know what the state of tourism was on September 18th, September 19th. So today, Carnival being here after an 8-year absence is very significant to us in the Ministry of Tourism. It's very significant to the tourism sector, and as you are seeing, we do have a number of guests who are coming off. The ship has over 2,000 guests. So today we do expect that our guests will be out and about to all of the sites. All of our sites are open, and we do expect that today will be a successful day. And we're very grateful at the Ministry of Tourism for having Carnival back here today.
Prevost says long-term negotiations were undertaken by authorities to get Carnival's approval to return to Dominica and make several calls during the summer.
Over the last few years, the Ministry of Tourism, the government of Dominica has been negotiating with Carnival Cruise Lines. Post-Hurricane Maria, we hosted a delegation from Carnival Cruise Lines in January. They did a site inspection, and they also returned 2 weeks ago to monitor the island again and determine whether we were ready for Carnival Cruise Lines. And based on the inspection, based on our meetings, based on all the work that we had done, rehabilitating the sites, getting Dominica prepared, we have Carnival back here today. We are hoping that if everything goes well for these calls, that we will see the return of Carnival full-time. These are summer calls for now, and we do know that the summer calls are very critical to the tourism industry, because without the summer calls, we've had a lull during the summer period where we've had the tourism sector, individuals who are employed in the tourism sector not having employment during that period.
The Tourism PA has highlighted that several enhancements and new features were put in place for Tuesday's visit of Carnival Fascination.
So we've included the cultural aspect. We have the Kalinago dancers who are here welcoming the guests to Dominica. We do have live entertainment throughout the day. We also will have some live entertainment at some of the sites. We do have a steel band at Trafalgar. And as you can see later, we do have the Waitikobili Artists Association. They are doing a live mural painting on the bayfront. There's increased security. We have the police on board. We also have private security that's contracted by the Ministry of Tourism. So, and of course the port security, we have our officers on the ground. So we're trying to see if we can ensure the safety and security of our guests. We've done some rehabilitation at the old market, rehabilitation of all of the stalls, and also of the WD markets, which will be completed at least by the next call. So there's a lot going on. We're very proud of today.
There are 10 scheduled calls for Carnival Cruise to Dominica for the summer. Andrea Louis, Channel 5 News.
In police news now, 2 suspects, Leon Etienne and Jason Telemac, wanted by police for murder in the matter involving the death of Kerry George, have surrendered to police. The men surrendered themselves Tuesday morning to officers of the Criminal Investigations Department. The surrender comes 7 days after the drive-by shooting in Newtown, which took the life of 27-year-old Kerry George after he was shot twice. Jason Telemark is 22, Leon Etienne 27. They are both from Loubier. Following last Wednesday's shooting, the police issued an appeal to the public to help in apprehending the suspects. In more police news, the body of a man fished out of the sea near Foncolé outside the Ravine Cork area on Monday has been identified as 63-year-old Ronald Amon Trading of Benaravine in Canefield. Amon Trading was last seen in the sea at Pottersville last Thursday morning. As expected, those who found out about the discovery, whether through social media or otherwise, quickly gathered along the Canefield cliff. There was speculation that the deceased was mentally ill, but Channel 5 News has not been able to independently confirm this. The cause of death is not known. Investigations are continuing. In other news now, the Dominica Association of Industry and Commerce is optimistic that government will consider implementing its proposals in the 2018-2019 national budget. DIC's president says the group has considered the country's post-Hurricane Maria situation in its pre-budget submissions to government.
We tend to think of disasters simply as a natural disaster, but we have to be mindful that with technology, the advancement of technology, there are many other business interruptions that the private sector can face, and therefore it's crucial that in submitting recommendations we look at all aspects of that, not just in terms of, as everybody seems to think, asking for a reduction in taxes. That's not what it's all about. So the DIC did make many recommendations. We streamlined, knowing that the country was not in a position to take on much in this position as is moving forward in a new direction. And we're still dealing with over 14,000 people who don't have roofs, infrastructure that's still weakened, incoming storms over this hurricane season. So we had to be mindful of the direction we wanted to take the economy in our suggestions to the national budget.
Thompson Ed, however, did not specify what the DIC's recommendations were, since government had not made the pre-budget discussions public.
We are aware of the fact that our recommendations are in consideration as it relates to looking at national development from an economic perspective. There is one area that I can speak to, and that is DIC would like to promote, because this is across the board with all stakeholders, the creation of a research and development ecosystem. We have a lot of intelligent young people in Dominica, and one individual on Friday actually mentioned to me, why don't we have more young meteorologists on island, more people who are interested in weather, so that we can enhance that capacity. It's in a good position, but young people don't see that as a career. Research and development is the way things are going right now, and we need to keep forward in our thinking, especially if we want to be the first climate resilient country in the world.
The businesswoman says she has been advocating for the authorities to build the country's social capacity.
At the end of the day, our customers are the people of Dominica and the visitors to Dominica. If they are not in a good position, then economically we won't be in a good position. So the two feed into each other, creating strong social programs, creating a good environment for people to live and work in is a foundation to the development of economic development. In order for us to, I guess as you would want to say, propagate and foster a better economic environment, you have to look not just at what is your tariff structure, you have to look at everything across the board and how each feeds into the other. So our budget submission took all of these different areas into consideration.
Destruction by Hurricane Maria is not the only factor leading to a shortage of emergency shelters. Some church leaders are not willing to have their buildings used as emergency shelters. Prime Minister Skerritt criticized church leaders who refused to have their church facilities used as shelters ahead of Tropical Storm Beryl last weekend. Mr. Skerritt said he planned on addressing the churches on the matter.
When I go to communities, they're saying to me, and of course from the disaster committee, that churches are saying that you can no longer use these churches as hurricane shelters. It disturbs my mind. You know, as a Christian nation, that we would have people who would deny the state opportunity to use these facilities for our brothers and sisters who are the most vulnerable. I'm saddened by that, I can tell you. And I have the opportunity to raise this with some of the church leaders who have denied us opportunities to use their church buildings for this. And I know, yes, in the past they have had difficulties because some of our citizens are not respectful of people's properties. But that's besides the point. We cannot let past experiences interfere with us doing good.
While Pastor Casmus John of the Goodwill People's Pentecostal Church thinks those church leaders were likely justified, he says it's his church's policy to open its doors to the community.
Our policy has always been to make the building available to the community. And that is why we do all that we do. And I think churches on a whole have played that role to serve the community because the Prime Minister probably got his information in a particular area. I'm not sure where he got his information, but I think generally speaking, church has been very open to the community. And if there is a church or churches that refused refused to have their building used as a shelter, it must have been for good reasons.
A case in point, according to Pastor John, could have been that the structure of a church building might have been unsafe coming from Hurricane Maria.
Of course, we know that we went through Maria and some churches lost their roofs and were damaged in several ways. So it must have been that, pastors would have calculated, would have done the assessment and considered that the buildings were not safe, enough for shelter this time around. But I suspect that most pastors, most churches would welcome anybody to a shelter. A disaster is coming and you want a safe place,
The basement of the People's Pentecostal Church is among 112 shelters on the local government department's list of hurricane shelters this season. You're watching the Channel 5 News. Coming up, government plans for the Fokole landfill. That and more when we come back.
When persons with TB sneeze or cough, healthy persons nearby breathe in the droplets and the bacteria can lodge in their lungs. People with weakened immune systems such as HIV/AIDS, alcohol and drug users, smokers, children, and the elderly are most susceptible. Persons with a cough should take precautions when in contact with persons in public places. Cover your mouth when sneezing and coughing. Visit your doctor or health center. You must complete your treatment. TB can be cured even with HIV. Be responsible. Help stop the spread of TB and HIV. Protect yourself and others.
Thank you for staying with us. An expansion project is expected to get underway soon at the country's only landfill during the next financial year.
The Fokole landfill, which commenced operations in 2005, has outlived its 10-year lifespan. General Manager of the Dominica Solid Waste Management Corporation, Florian Mitchell, says government has come on board to fund an expansion project at the current landfill to prolong its lifespan.
The landfill was built for a certain amount of years. And again, the Ministry of Finance assisted us in doing some feasibility study in terms of expanding the lifespan of the landfill. And we have again turned to the Ministry of Finance for additional financial support for equipment, again, to assist with that expansion plan. And from my inclination, from what I've seen, again, we shall be receiving some of the resources that we need to set up that expansion plan that will give us an additional 10 years again within the same tipping area. So we really welcome those things. It has been a challenge, but we believe that things are going to progress in the right direction in the 2018-2019 budget cycle.
Mitchell says following Hurricane Maria, the facility was stretched to capacity due to the quantity of waste being brought in, and while the volume of incoming material remains high, the corporation is making best use of the space available.
Every day we are basically receiving tons and tons of waste, apart from your general waste stream. As I said, the cleaning is ongoing, so you have a lot of wood, a lot of soil. Some of the soil that we stockpiling in a particular section of the landfill that we're going to reincorporate in terms of our tipping area. The wood, we're using our boomer compactor to try to reduce the volume. because the boom compactor spikes, so we put in a particular area and then we pass on, and then again we use it and we try to repurpose it.
As regards the management of plastic waste, the PET shredder, which was fully functional before Hurricane Maria, had been put out of commission as the roof of the building housing that piece of equipment was damaged. Mitchell says plans are underway to redesign the roof so the PET shredder can resume operations shortly.
What we're thinking of doing is to redesign the roof. It's supposed to be an industrial area, but we didn't have the sufficient resource before, so you had something done which was not really in keeping with a Category 5 hurricane. So in going forward, we've contracted a firm to do the designs for us. Within 20 days we shall receive the designs, and again we receive some money from the government to help to set up the roof. Once that is done, then we'll just have to reassess the plant itself, check all the different components because the electrical plant. We'll do that. Once we fully commission the plant again, we'll start back the shredding process. And we are still stockpiling plastics. Again, we want to appeal to the general public. Do not put your plastic waste in your general waste. Please separate your plastic, separate your glass, separate your cans.
Quite a few important decisions taken at the just concluded CARICOM Summit in Jamaica, expected to enhance life as we know it as CARICOM citizens. CARICOM Chairman, Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness, told a news conference on Friday the 39th conference has delivered a long-awaited promise of free movement. He said the conference had recommitted to the free movement of skills and had agreed that all states by the 31st of December 2018 would have put in place the necessary legislative framework to facilitate all 10 approved categories of skills. The signing of the Protocol on Contingent Rights on Friday is expected to encourage greater use of the free movement regime. It's a long outstanding matter, a crucial step to making CARICOM more functional and relevant to the people of the region. Another important achievement of the conference is the unanimous adoption of procedures on the refusal of entry which will be applied at the border. These procedures, which all members must have in place no later than August 1st, 2018, will guide border officials on how they should treat nationals who are refused entry. This is expected to safeguard the rights of all community nationals moving across the region. The leaders have also agreed to a special meeting on the CSME to be held in Trinidad in November to give focus to this flagship issue of the community. And the extent to which the opposition parties in the region are engaged as observers or otherwise on the issue of the Caribbean single market and economy. That was one of the issues raised during a news conference marking the end of the 39th Conference of Heads of Government in Jamaica on Friday.
We have developed a mechanism of national consultation at least once a year, and at that the opposition, all groups become involved in making their input or having an opportunity to speak to that matter. I would want to speak to one unique feature of our own OECS integration system, where we have the OECS Parliament as an institution that itself works and in which we have put from time to time important matters to do with climate change, for example, where as part of the agreement, the opposition is represented in some proportion as part of the country delegation. And the movement and participation of opposition members are in fact financed by the state. So the OECS then have a good practice which can be refined and which can improve. But I believe that there is merit in having some opportunity. This speaks to observers, but some opportunity for inclusion, because part of the implementation deficit, of course, is due to the fact that usually when different governments, they are changing governments, the opposition at times come to the table not fully seized with where we are at in terms of the regional agenda and acting with an absence of adequate information, which at times bring a lull to the speed and the depth with which we go with the integration process. So I think there is merit, and perhaps it is something as part of our good governance agenda we certainly can try at the CARICOM level.
It's important to have, because this is national to regional, it's important to have bipartisan view on policy, or at least to observe the policy process, and that is admirable, which is why that when we did the Commission report, we took it to Parliament and had a resolution debated in Parliament to come to a common position for Jamaica. So we acknowledge that, yes, it is important that many of the decisions that we're making should either have observation or participation.
To end the news, a look again at the headlines. Dominica welcomes back Carnival cruise lines after an 8-year absence. 2 suspects in last Wednesday's fatal shooting in Newtown surrendered to police, and CARICOM heads say there's a place for engagement of opposition parties in the CSME process. Feel free to contact us at news@marpin2k4.com. You can access our past newscasts on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the production team, I am Julian Morris. Thank you for watching. Join us tomorrow.